My name's Mike D.
Hi, Mike.
Our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the levels of press, radio, and film. If anyone here represents a media agency, please contact Jeff R. The members of the North Central Indiana area of Narcotics Anonymous welcomes you to the 5th annual We Grow with Love convention. We would like to thank you for joining us in this celebration of recovery. We are deeply grateful to Narcotics Anonymous and find great joy in being able to express our gratitude here with you, our family. In Narcotics Anonymous, we are certain that when we come together to share our love and our love with each other, a miracle happens. Our recovery takes hard work, courage, and commitment. Those are the things that carry us through as we seek the spiritual growth that comes with working the 12 steps. Never alone do this together for each other, knowing that we need each other, because more than anything else, we grow with love. The preface to the basic text begins, "The full fruit of a labor of love lives in a harvest, and that always comes in its right season." For us, our season has come. Could you please read just for today, Chuck?
My name's Chuck. I'm an addict.
Hi, Chuck.
Hi, buddy. Good and bad feelings, May 25th. A lot happens in one day, both negative and positive. If we do not take time to appreciate both, perhaps we will miss something that will help us grow. PI number 8, just for today. Most of us seem to unconsciously judge what happens in our lives each day as good or bad, success or failure. We tend to feel happy about the good and angry, frustrated, and guilty about the bad. Good and bad feelings, though, often have little to do with what's truly good or bad for us. We may learn more from our failures than our successes, especially if failure has to come from taking a risk. Attaching value judgments to our emotional reactions ties us to our old ways of thinking. We can change the way we think about the incidents of everyday life, viewing them as opportunities for growth, not as good or bad. We can search for lessons rather than assigning value. When we do this, we learn something from each day. Our daily 10-step is an excellent tool for evaluating the day's events and learning from both success and failure. Just for today, I am offered an opportunity to apply the principles of recovery so that I will learn and grow. When I learn from life's events, I succeed.
Thanks, Chuck. Our topic for this workshop is fear of change. And our first speaker is somebody that's really important to me, my wife and significant other, Nancy D.
Thanks, Mike. I'm an addict. My name is Nancy. My problem is addiction. I saw that topic on the sheet when I came in to register. And in the years past, I've always checked that little box where it says, willing to speak at a workshop. And they always send me a little thing through the mail with some topic that I've never even heard before. You know, and I got to do all this work and read about this. And I saw this one that said fear of change. And I've been working on my 3rd step for a month and writing. And I spent about 2 days on fear. And I thought, oh, I can do this. And I'm up here, I'm scared shitless. But you know, that's okay, because God's going to speak through me. I didn't do any preparation. I just prayed and spent some time in meditation. And I know that God's going to come through me and speak to you people, because that's the way that it works in this program. Fear has a lot of different meanings. What fear is supposed to be when you live a healthy lifestyle is an emotion that makes you be cautious of whatever it is you're doing. It might be harmful to you. Okay, when you're an addict, fear is being afraid of everything. You know, it's unrealistic. It's false actions appearing real. And there's so many ways that I can take fear and blow it out of proportion, that I can take the least little thing that somebody says, or the least little seed of doubt about myself, and blow it up into a whole major process and become fearful of everything. And fear of change is probably the hardest thing that I've ever had to deal with, and I still do deal with it on a daily basis. I like to be familiar. I like to be comfortable where I'm at. You know, feel very content if things don't change. You know, that is the way I like it, you know. When I was using, I had my own little people I did with, and I didn't change those people. I didn't let anybody else come in because that was the rules, you know. And I was afraid. I was afraid of meeting somebody out there that was going to bust me. So you couldn't come in my house if I didn't know you. You know, send somebody else in. I knew, but change is very difficult because, for one, I'm very stubborn, I'm very bullheaded, and I'm very opinionated, and I'm very strong-willed. And fear and self-will go hand in hand, because when you're willful, you want everything to turn out the way that you want it to be, you know. This is what my sponsor calls Nancy's world. Because it's this little world that I put out before me, and I like to pull little strings, and everything turns out the way that it's supposed to be. And if it doesn't turn out the way that I want it to, and then I get angry, and then I get fearful because I don't have any faith, you know. There's that line in the book that says, fear is a lack of faith. And if I don't have faith, then I'm full of fear. And fear is an uncomfortable place to be because then you're afraid, you know. Fear is what makes you sit in your room and not be willing to go out and touch that other person. Fear is unwillingness to pick up the basic text. Fear is all kinds of things. Fear of change. You know, being more willing to stay in something that's painful than to go out and try something else that's unknown. Because those unknown things are scary. I don't know about you guys, but when I came to this program, I didn't want to be here. I had to be here because that's what the law told me I had to do to get my ass clean so I could get myself straightened up so I wouldn't go to jail. You know, and once I got here, I started to change. And boy, I didn't want to. It's like pulling teeth. You know, it's like I got to look at myself. I got to find the things in me that have become so comfortable in my act of using. You know, I'm so comfortable with these unspiritual principles, you know, of anger and hostility and resentment and untrusting people, being hostile. You know, all these negative emotions, those are familiar. I have to change all those negative things and make them positive. I have to find the positiveness in myself so that I can reach out and help other people, because that is what our program tells us, because I can't be better unless I can help you, because you might have some time you can help me. You know, I'm so grateful that this program works like that, because by nature I'm not a very outgoing person. I'd just as soon be happy sitting up there reading my book and isolating most of the time, because I can accept me when I'm by myself, but when I get with other people, I'm always comparing myself to them. You know, I don't have what they have. They have some spirituality, or they're nicer looking, or they have better, you know, toys, or whatever it is that I think that I'm lacking in that day. Those are the things that I compare myself with them, and then that makes me less than, and then I'm afraid that I'm not any good anymore. You know, and my fear runs the whole gambit. But today I've been working on it, and I've been working on it pretty hard, and things have been getting better. Change is not the terrible things that everybody thinks that it is. I just know that it's very painful to change, because it's scary. You know, it's like when you get to the end of that cliff, and you have to step off that cliff and wait for God to catch you, because fear is the fact that you're not willing to trust that something else is out there going to catch you. You know, when I redevelop and re-strengthen my relationship with my higher power, that's when I lose a lot of my fears, because God fills up that hole inside of me that fear takes over. You know, because all those things can live in there, and when I stick them in my mind, all those fears, you know, you blow them up out of proportion. They get the best of me. And if I can get rid of those negative things and replace them with positive things, then I'm a much healthier person, and I'm not afraid to come out and be with you guys, because I don't like being in my room, but that's where I feel comfortable, because I'm not good enough to be out there, you know. It seems like it's just a vicious circle, you know, but you just got to keep working at it, and it does get better. Change is good, you know. Change always happens after a period of extreme pain. That's what my program has told me. Whenever I go through something that's really intense, and it really sucks, and I manage to stay clean through it, and I look at that and I say, okay, what have I learned from this? You know, how can I change my behavior so that I can be a better person? You know, how can I be and live by spiritual principles, to the fact that I can grow. Because if I'm not growing, I'm going backwards, and I can't afford to go backwards in this program. Because if I'm going backwards, I'm going to go back to using again, because that's what my disease wants. It doesn't want me to be healthy, it wants me to be unhealthy. It wants me to be full of fear, because if I'm full of fear, I'm going to medicate that fear with something. You know, right now, I'm treating my fear with my faith. And my faith in my God right now is really strong because I've been working really hard at it. But it's not something that comes easy. You just can't walk up to somebody and say, oh God, I'm full of God right now, you know. I'm full of shit, more likely. It's an internal working that helps you establish that inner peace that fills you with contentment. And when I'm okay with me, I'm okay with everybody else, and then I don't mind changing. You know, there's a lot of fears I have. The other thing was the fear of change and fear of success, fear of failure. And those are both tied in too. Fear of success is a major one, you know. When I was using, I was really good. I have 3 college degrees. You know, I went through school for 7 years. I'm very well educated. I have all the diplomas on the wall. And you know what I do for a living? I'm a waitress. Because I can't take the stress of what my degrees make me do, you know. The stress of working in my field is incredible. And it puts too much pressure on me, and I can't deal with it. And it makes me use. So for right now, I'm not doing it. You know, and that's okay. Because, you know, I haven't lost that training. I'm just not using it right now. Because I have to do what's best for me. I almost recently changed a job and went to work in a restaurant that served alcohol. And I really wanted to go there. And I was very upset when they didn't hire me. But, you know, that was my God looking out for me, because they serve alcohol there. And they would have put me in a position where day after day after day after day, it was going to start looking better. You know, and I realize that now, but at the time I was upset because it was upscale and I'd make more money and I thought it was going to be better, you know, and I was trying to set some new goals and reach out and do all these different things. And I felt like a failure because I didn't get that job, because I wasn't good enough. You know, I felt that they didn't hire me because I was too heavy. I felt they didn't hire me because I was too well educated. You know, and all these fears and self-doubts come back up again. And I had a really bad week or so with that. But I worked through it with a lot of help from the people in the program and by being able to share those things. Fear doesn't go away until you address it. You got to look that demon right in the eyes and say, I'm not afraid of you. I'm going to do something to get rid of you. You know, I'm going to turn to my higher power, and I'm going to find in my God the strength to deal with you, because you're not going to run my life anymore. You know, because fear ran my life totally when I was using. And it can do it when you're clean. You just live by miserable life. You know, and I don't want to be miserable anymore. I want to be happy. I want to be joyous and free. I want to find some inner peace and be able to share with people the things that I have in my heart. I don't have much more. I'm just overwhelmed right now. Thanks a lot for being here. I love everybody.
Thank you, Nancy.
Our next speaker will be Diane from Wisconsin.
I'm a recovering addict named Diane.
Hi,
Diane.
And I didn't realize the name of this workshop was Fear of Change. I signed up for this at like 2 o'clock Saturday morning when I got in here. And my friend said, oh, change. You need to sign up for that one. Faith is how I face my fears. Because without faith, no matter how small my faith is at times, I can't face any of them. You know, that's all there is to that. I learned early in this program, because I had a sponsor that told me I needed to run to the roar. And I didn't understand what that meant. She told me this little story that there's this lion, this old lion in the middle of the jungle. And he has no teeth, and he's all arthritic, and the only thing he has is this great roar. And all the young lions who have the teeth and the claws, they're all laying out in the outskirts. So when the little bunny rabbits and the little critters come around, this lion just roars really loud, scares the hell out of them, and they all run away from the roar, and they run right into the young lions. And that if I run to that roar, chances are I won't get eaten up. And so that's what she taught me early on in the program. And so I have a tendency to run to the roar and go towards those things that I'm afraid of, because that's what I learned here to do. I had to do that, you know. Change. I don't like change at all. I want everybody to do what it is I want them to do the way I want them to do it, and leave it that way, and don't change it. You know, and it doesn't happen that way for me. Change for me is letting go of, and I don't do that very well. You know, anything I let go of is bleeding, has claw marks. Hang on to it for all it's worth. And I let go because I'm in so much pain that I don't know what else to do, so then that's when I let go, you know. There's two things in the text that help me with this. There's a lot of things in the text that help me with this, but I think the most important ones is that everything that I know, absolutely everything that I know, is subject to change, especially what I know about the truth. You know, because that's my perception. And my perception changes. And that's a good thing, too. And it's part of the growth. This is a process for me. It's the journey. It's not a destination. I don't know where the train's going, but, you know, I'm on it. And I want to stay with it and go where it goes, you know. And this has come out of my mouth so many times this weekend that it's like I must need to hear it. And that's, you know, I have to enjoy here while I'm here, because there's no here there, you know. When I first started coming around, I only thought there was yesterday and tomorrow. There was a then and there's a there, but all I truly have is here and now, and I have to be reminded of that, you know, and that comes with change. I've learned that by changing. I had to stay open-minded, because if I stay with my tunnel vision and my closed mind, nothing's going to change. And if nothing changes, nothing changes. And I can stay pretty sick by not staying open-minded. Sometimes I want to change. I want to create change, you know, because I like to run. You know, I like to just run. I don't like how this is going. Fuck this. I'm out of here. You know, and so I try to create change in that way, and that's not very healthy for me. What I've come to learn in especially the last 2 years, is that sometimes the biggest change that I need to make is to stand still. I don't know how to do that real well, you know, but just to stand still and let things be what they will be. Stop pushing the tide. I'm great for pushing the tide. I just shove it the way I want to. And I had to learn here that the waves come closer to shore. You know, they bring me closer to shore sometimes. And I always see waves as taking me out. I'm from the East Coast, and you're always worried about the undertow out there, you know, getting drug out and drowning, stuff like that. And so I had to learn that sometimes when I'm in the midst of all this chaos and stuff, that it's bringing me in closer to the shore. It just doesn't feel that way sometimes. This process sometimes is real scary for me, but it's also what I want today. I don't want to ever go back to what I was and where I came from. You know, I heard somebody say when they got here they would have done anything. I would have done anything. And today, you know what? I will do anything. Absolutely anything. For my recovery today, to stay clean, to be able to go to sleep tonight and not pass out. You know, that was a new thing for me when I got here. I didn't realize that people went to sleep. And they wake up, you know. I was so used to passing out and coming to. I didn't know there was anything else. So that was a change. There's a lot of changes. You know, my job is a change. I have a job that takes care of children, although that never would have happened when I was out there using. So that's a good change some days. when it doesn't overwhelm me. And when I do get overwhelmed, and it happens a lot for me anyway, and I find that, you know, it's like I had 10 years clean, and I was facing things that I just didn't think I was going to have to face in recovery. You know, losses. And the last 4 years I put myself in quite a trick bag financially, you know, and that was my decision, and I went wild, and instant gratification, and now I'm digging that hole out, and people sometimes say to me, you know, well, why don't you just declare bankruptcy? And it's like, you know, that's just so typical of us addicts. Let's make this huge mess, and they say, oh, excuse me, can you come clean this up for me? You know, I mean, that would be me. I did that all my life, you know, and it's harder to become responsible for the mess that I created, you know, and I did create it. Because I didn't live life on life's terms for a while. My income is based on how many children I have in my house. So if my numbers are down, my income is down. And so rather than to adjust my standard of living at that time to what my income was, I had these credit cards that, you know, they just keep sending them to me all the time anyway. So I just go cash advance on them and bring my income back up to what my standard of living was at the time. And went a little wild there for a while. And I think that's part of, in the text, that when we get to the end of the road, either with or without the use of drugs, what is there left to do? To go on the same, jails, institutions, or death, or find a new way to live. And I had to find a new way to live. And that meant not cash advancing and, you know, not charging and changing my life again. And for me, that's what this is about. Because I stay out there doing those things that I know to do, that I learned to do for years and years and years and years and years, I'll go back out using, you know. That part of my disease could have ended me up in jail. Could have put me in an institution. And it most certainly could have led to my death, you know. So when I got to the end of the road, I did what I knew to do. And that was to reach out to you guys who've also done that. Because I'm not the only one, although I thought I was the only one, that had some clean time and then dug this hole and damn near buried yourselves in it, you know. And you all taught me. Gee, Diane, sounds like step one. You know, why don't you work the steps on this? It's like, oh yeah, I guess that would work, wouldn't it, you know? And it does. And so I'm learning to be responsible today to my creditors. I don't dodge them and I don't hide from them. I'm just real honest with them and say, you know, this month my income dropped by 50% and I just have to do the best I can here, you know. And that's part of, for me, running to the roar. And being honest with other people, earthlings out there that I need to be honest with, you know. And not taking that easy way out. And it was real hard. And my ego didn't want anybody to know that I had done this because I had some clean time and should know better and should not have done that, you know. And my ego said, don't tell anybody. And my disease said, shove it back in there, shove it back in there. Nobody needs to know. You can handle this one all on your own, you know. And I didn't, and I couldn't, and I can't, you know. And that's part of the change. And I need to continually be open to changing. And knowing that if I stay the same, even in some of the positive things that I'm doing in my life, if I'm not open to changing that, I'll get stagnant and I'll end up going backwards and I'll end up at the end of the road again. You know, and there's great relief for me to know that when I get to the end of the road, I don't have to pick up. I don't have to do that. I don't have to die behind this disease. That I can work the steps, I can call my sponsor, I can call another addict, and I don't have to do this alone, you know. So today I just went to my roars, and I talked about it earlier, you know, at another workshop on just being buoyant and trying to be, you know, go with it. Some of the changes are hard and they're difficult and they're painful and they hurt my pride and they make me vulnerable, and that causes fear, because that voice comes back that if you truly knew who I was, you wouldn't want me around, because now look what I've done and I'm clean and I did this. I made this mess, you know. And so that voice is there, and the voice of NA tells me, keep coming back, we love you, you know, don't use, you know, come back. And so that's what I do. And thanks for being here and thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Diane and Nancy. All right, we're going to open the mic up if anyone wants to share on this topic. Before we open the floor for sharing, I need to remind everyone that you are being taped. If you do not wish to be taped, please let me know so we can turn off the machine off. Come on up.
Hi, my name's Susan. I'm an addict. I just wanted to thank the two women that shared. I got so much out of your leads, and I think one of the best things about recovery is the recognition that, you know, when I hold all these thoughts about things that I do or ways that I feel like I'm so unique and unusual and weird and different. And then I hear people get up and share their experiences and their feelings, and they're exactly what I'm going through, and it makes me feel like, well, it's not maybe that bad or that big of a thing, because if other people are feeling it too, then maybe I'm not so unique and isolated, basically. I liked particularly when you were talking about facing the roars and the fear, and about fear being a lack of faith. It's like, you know, when I do that, when I live in my fear, it has so much power. And as soon as I face it for what it, and see it for what it is, it's really just an illusion. It's nothing. It's just a creation of my own mind. But for me, that's really hard to practice when I'm in it. I recently had a situation where a great deal of fear came up for me, and as a result, I sabotaged a potential really good love relationship. And it hurt so much, you know, there was an awful lot of pain. And I was able to see, though, because of the program and because of what I've learned and my willingness to see what is positive in a seemingly negative situation, I was able to see the lessons that I needed to learn. You know, that this person was put into my life so that I could see where my fears are and how I behave and how they manifest and how they hurt me. And they keep love at bay. And it's like, you know, there's a lot of this childhood deep stuff that motivates me. And the thing is, I know differently today. You know, I've learned different ways of behavior, and it's a matter, I think, of talking to myself, kind of, and telling myself, like, okay, this fear, maybe at one time it was a self-protective measure in a hostile environment, but I'm not in a hostile environment anymore. And I don't need it to protect myself. In fact, it's working against me now. And that kind of takes some of the power of it away, too. So I'm really glad to be here. I just got here, and my daughter was so good in the car for 3 hours. I'm so proud of her. Yeah. And so I'm looking forward to a good next maybe 5 or 6 hours that's left of the weekend. But thanks for letting me share.
Thank you for being here.
My name is Tim. I'm an addict. And, you know, my fears, I have one healthy fear, and that's using. I don't want to use today, you know. I got a fear of this microphone also, too. But that's okay. You know, today I was feeling pretty fearful about some stuff, and my disease don't want to let me talk about my fears because I feel different and unusual, and it's always up in my head. Everything I fear, 99% of it never comes true. You know, I create this own chaos in my brain, and I project and make up all this stuff, and the committee goes to work, and the conspiracy starts happening, and none of it really ever happens. It's all my own shit, and that's my disease, how it works on me. And, you know, I get so caught up in it, and I get that gut-wrenching fear, and I get caught up in it all week long. And you know what it is? It's lack of faith, and I have to trust this process. I have to trust God. And you know, a lot of times I do, and it's just like I'll start thinking about something and that fear will jump back in. It's not working my third step. You know, it was so simple. I had all these fears the other day, and I was going into this church basement with someone to a meeting, and the guy has a lot more clean time than me, and he just looked at me and he says, "Tim, you ain't practicing your third step, and this is all it is. You know, I ain't giving this stuff to God. I'm not trusting Him." You know, but then sometimes, on the other hand, I do. I trust God, you know, and I just give it to Him, and I feel so serene and spiritual. But when I start all this fear, all this thinking up in my head, see, I got a thinking problem. That's what got me into these rooms, my best thinking, you know, and I start thinking, I just get all caught up, you know, and it ruins my day. It takes me out of myself and puts me somewhere else where I don't want to be, you know. And I know God didn't pull me up out of the gutter and out of them shooting galleries and out of them crack houses. You know, He's not going to drop me on my head. And I say this over and over again. I got to keep telling myself this over and over again. I got to believe this stuff because my disease don't want to, you know, it don't want to let me, you know. It wants me to believe that bad things are going to happen. And, you know, like sabotaging ourselves, you know. You know, and I'll do that at work, you know. I'll get on a job. See, I'm a carpenter, and I work, you know, till a big job is through, and I got to go find another job. I go out there and I do the footwork, and work comes to me. It's just like this program. I have to get in the books. I have to share about where I'm at and how I'm feeling, okay? Because if I don't, I'll sit back there and my disease will work on me. And today I can't have that happen to me. I've come too far, and I need to share where I'm at, you know? And this fear stuff, it's just like, it's right where I'm at right now. You know, and it just started. I started dwelling on a situation in my life, and it got the best of me. I've been having a really good weekend here, and I'm glad I came, and it's okay though. You know, I'm an addict. I think crazy, you know, and I'm just really grateful I came, and I'm going to read my third step when I get back to the cabin and do some more praying and just ask God for help. That's what I got to do on a daily basis. If it's 5, 10, 20 times a day. You know, and I'm just really grateful to be here. That's all I got. I just needed to share. Thanks.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks for coming up.
My name's Jim. I'm a grateful recovering addict. Fear, yeah, I had that too, you know. Coming up here was enough, just like Tim said, you know. I had some things going on in the last 2 months or so that I kind of knew were there, but I wasn't looking at them at all because I was scared of it, you know. And what it boiled down to was coming around these tables for as long as I've been and staying clean, but not doing what I really needed to do because I didn't want to see it and I didn't want to look at it. And somebody took a risk that I would get mad at them, and they called me on my, you know, and that's really what I needed because it made me do some real change in you know, now, and I needed that. There was a person that showed up at this convention that I haven't been, like, we used to communicate, and then we quit communicating because of another incident, and I was talking it over with my sponsor, and he said that I need to get with this person and talk to him, you know. So I kind of started, like, hanging out wherever they were, and we were sitting out on the front porch of where we eat at, and then a little later at lunchtime, she approached me and said, you know, what happened back then and now, let's get rid of it, because it's like, wait a minute, you read my mind or what, you know? But I had prayed on it between the two meals, and that was just another sign that faith is, you know, that my higher power is watching me. And this weekend, I've been really getting in touch with myself because I'm really scared of myself. Scared of really knowing who I am. And I've learned so much already this weekend, you know. I've done some real serious footwork as far as reaching out and asking for help. I got me a sponsor today, which I didn't think I needed one. Everybody said I did, but what did you all know? You know? It was kind of funny because I wanted to talk to this guy and tell him I wanted him to be my sponsor for a little while, and I just told him, I said, I need some help. Never asked him to be my sponsor. I wasn't going that far, you know. And then one day he was talking about me, and he called me his sponsor, you know. I said, wait a minute, man, I never asked you. I just want some help. But we figured out that I wanted him to be my sponsor, and yeah, he's already done me some stuff that I needed to hear, that I was scared to hear. I didn't want to hear it. And I needed to pick somebody to say, hey, tell me what you see in me. And he did that, and it's scary because I got some work to do. You know, staying clean for me doesn't seem be real hard right now. You know, I put over 4 years together clean, and but then stuff just happens, and I can't take no more stuff, so now it's time to do some serious work. And this was part of my fear, getting up here and doing this. So I appreciate you all sitting there and listening to me. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Ray, I'm Natick. You know, I was thinking about these workshops, and I remember the first convention I went to a couple years back, and I'm looking at these schedules and I'm reading these things. I didn't know what a workshop was. I didn't know how it, you know, what it meant. So I would look at the little, and I was trying to pick out which ones I wanted to go to, and I put I invented different intros to the workshops, you know. So I would say, like this one here, I'd go, hey, if you want to know everything there is to know about eliminating fear from your life, come on down here, you know. So, and that's what I expect. I expected when I first started coming to Narcotics Anonymous, I'd come to a workshop, and I'd see a little topic for a workshop. You all would just tell me how to eliminate fear from, you know, how to eliminate this fear of change I have, you know. And I'm thinking, you know, this morning I got up and I was walking around. I went and did some writing, and one thing I'm thinking about is I got a sponsee coming up now, and he's working on his 4th step. This is a little bit, I got fears about this because I know that he's a biker, you know, former patch holder, and he's told me before, and he's been in and out of the rooms, and he's quit. You know, he's used over doing the 4th step, and now he said he's ready to do it. He's got a lot of issues in there that he's been afraid to face. Now he's ready. He thinks he's ready. And I'm going, oh boy, you know, now I'm going to have to help him work through some things. So I went down there and I got the 4-step guide because I hadn't looked at it in a while, and I'm wondering, you know, how I'm going to help him direct himself through this. I started reading, just reading the beginning of it. It says, you know, we did a searching and fearless moral inventory. And I'm thinking of this word fear, and the word that we bring up is so often. You know, I hear that people, when they talk about the 6th step, they go, I only have one character defect, and it's fear. You know, and fear.
And I'm going, well, and then I said, well, geez, oh man, I did a 4-step. I must have been fearless at one time, you know? And I get this word fear, and I think of, I got this image right now of these kids that turn their baseball caps on backwards and they get this little decal and stick it in their windshield. It says, no fear. And I'm going, geez, I wonder if they got no fear. You know, I know that they don't. You know, I just go, I kind of smirk when I see those things go by. So I guess what I'm thinking of, you know, a couple more other things. I come down here, I come to a few workshops, and I see you guys setting up here and talking, and that isn't fear to me. That's a lot of courage, you know. It takes a lot of courage to, for me, I got in my truck, and I drove 5 hours here. I didn't know what I was going to get into. I knew that, you know, I write this other thing in my notebooks a lot of time. You know, what I try and do is maneuver myself into an atmosphere of recovery, because I could have stayed at my little cushy house and maybe mowed the lawn and watched some TV this weekend or whatever, but it would have been a long weekend. I wouldn't have had any big plans, and I said this was an act of courage for me. You know, I had to, I eliminated some of my fears coming here. You know, I hear other people up here talking about things in their lives that they have changed because they have decided to face fears. You know, it's not a lot about fear of changing. It's a lot about being willing to have the faith to face up to these fears. You know, and the thing is, I talked to a couple other addicts this morning. You know, this afternoon at lunch, a couple of people I met that turned out to be my roommates here, and we're talking, and the guy's saying he's got a sponsee that's vacillating on finishing the 4-step, and the thing is, he's the fear. You know, and the thing is, if you've done this 4-step, you know that those of us that have, what a relief it was. You know, and I was so afraid to get this done. I was so afraid to write all this down. I was so afraid what would happen if I went to these areas that I didn't want to go to, and it turned out to be, wow, what a great thing that was. You know. So and then I look around and see other people that are, and I could just see, well, if you just surrender that, you know, your fear will be lifted really soon. You know, just, you know, to me it's, you know, I get tripped out on the words, you know, and I like to see. And I didn't realize we're talking about fear, and this morning I found out the word fear is actually in one of our steps. And whenever I think about our steps and some of the key words in our steps, and I think about them, and I look them up, and I analyze them, and I did that in the first step when I looked at powerless, and I didn't like being powerless. I didn't even like that word at all, but then I found out it's in the second step. We're looking for power greater than ourselves, and in the 11th step we're praying and meditating for power. You know, so these words are, you know, they change with us as we get a little bit more recovery. We decide to face some of these fears, and a lot of these words that were so alien to me now take on new meanings, and that's how I face up to some change. And I pass.
Thanks, Ray.
I'm Kathy. I'm a recovering addict. I desperately needed to be at this workshop because I need to make some changes in my relationship with my son, and there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear there, not only about what's going to happen to our relationship as far as how we communicate, but how he may react to to some of the changes that I need to make. My son's also in recovery. And he got married, and he has a wonderful family, 2 beautiful children, and before I came down here this weekend, I had to go and bail him out of jail. And it was really hard for 2 reasons. It took me back to sitting in those rooms with some of my other friends, all fucked up. I was going to bail out the dealer and sit around these rooms being all stupid and crazy while you're waiting and waiting and waiting. And that was the first thing I felt when I walked into the rooms where we had to go and talk to the people in this little glass window. And I just remembered all of that and was like, oh man, I didn't think I would ever be back here again. And then I had to face why they had picked up my son. And they had arrested him for soliciting a prostitute. And